It's a virtual semi-final. Kind of strange that a year ago when this format was being played in the T20 version, keeping in mind the all-important T20 World Cup, India were in a similar situation. There was no rain then, but these two teams ended up ruining India's party and making the final. Now it's India who are comfortably in the final, something which many people probably are still trying to fathom. But look, I just think two things. If you look at how Pakistan entered this tournament, they seemed, and again, it seems very strange to use this word settled in regard to Pakistan teams, because the best of Pakistan's mercurial teams have never been settled, as Wasim Akram very brilliantly outlines in his memoirs. But this Pakistan team looks at a number one ranking, number one batsman, a very calm captain in Babar Azam. You know, he marked the tournament with 150. They smashed Nepal. They dominated most of the match against India. Then they beat Bangladesh, but one loss, and that too a record loss in which you lose two of your best three bowlers, and then you end up dropping your not your most consistent opener, but your most successful opener in Fakhar Zaman. And now this team looks disheveled. It looks like the Pakistan teams, at least I've been accustomed to watching down the years.
Right.
And now you look at what Sri Lanka have done. Yes, Sri Lanka were on a 13-match ODI streak, which India halted. But even in that narrow loss, there were a lot of positives for Sri Lanka. I know rain is on the cards, but if we get even a remotely similar track to like we saw in the previous match, it's going to be Pakistan, which is going to be very, very worried. They've had to make, 4 to 5 changes for this match.
Jamie, I was about to get there.
It's not beyond Pakistan.
I was about to get there, Jamie. Pakistan has made as many as half the team. 50%, the captain has to change 50% of the team after the thrashing that they got against India. We will get there about all those changes and what those changes mean. But, changes or not, the stakes are extremely high, isn't it, Vedam? Tell us from that perspective, from a team perspective, what is your, if I were to ask you, where's your money on? Is it Pakistan or is it Sri Lanka?
Hi, Krishna Kumar. Nice to be here. One of the things that we have noticed about this Pakistan team, not today, but right from a long time, that when they look settled, they are not a good team. It's when they are unsettled, when they are really at their top. And they've never been together. They've never been united. Even if you look at it when they won the World Cup in Australia, it was a completely disjointed side. It's an antithesis of how a team has to behave and how a team has to get together. Because Pakistan, when it's disjointed, is actually a dangerous side. When it is united, then it just falls apart. And it's happened again. Pakistan really lost the plot, not so much the second match against India, but the very first match. And from 64 for 4, they allowed an Indian team to go to 266. Now, there were a lot of questions asked about their strategies, whether the bowling strategies were right. And I think when they missed the bus there, the very next match that they played against India, everything went wrong. At that time, it was only the bowling and the bowling changes that were going wrong. But then the second match, everything went wrong. So for Pakistan, really, this is a familiar position to be in. The other issue that they have is right through their PSL, they have played on flat tracks, on good flat tracks where the batsmen go hammer and tongs at the bowlers. Now, what we have seen Sri Lanka is, especially like India played Sri Lanka in the last game, it was not that sort of a track. It was a totally different track, slower track. Ball was not coming on, too paced, and made batting really, really difficult, which called for a lot of discipline, a lot of strategy, a lot of planning. Whether Pakistan has it in them to do all those things, I'm not so sure. Okay. If it was a flat track where they have to go hammer and tongs, I think they have power hitters. They have really good power hitters. But where they have to push the ball into the vacant gaps, I think only except for Babar Azam, I'm not too sure if the others can play that kind of a game, pushing the ball into the gaps and running ones and twos.
Right, fair enough. That's as far as the overall team composition is concerned. The way these teams have been Pakistan and Sri Lanka. Jamie, we can't wait to discuss the changes in the Pakistani team. Let's make this very clear. 50% of the team is being changed, albeit the fact that 5 players being changed. Couple of them are injuries. So you can't or at least they're being reported as injuries. I want your thoughts on what you make of these 5 changes. 2 fast bowlers for injuries, a brand new spinner brought into the mix. Pakistan learning lessons from both India and Sri Lanka in this tournament, Jamie.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's unfortunate that they've been hit by these blows to Haris Rauf and to Naseem Shah. Naseem Shah, obviously, like they've said, he's been ruled out as a precautionary measure, keeping in mind the World Cup starting in a few weeks. And Haris Rauf also, I mean, he's not playing because of that same World Cup specter that's looming on this. Fakhar Zaman, despite the inconsistent run he's had, it's still a surprise because he's a big match player. By big match, I mean he's the kind of player who, it's been a few years, but he's the guy who started India's downfall in the 2017 Champions Trophy final. Pakistan won that match after India smashed them in the league stage, and people like Virender Sehwag were tweeting, "Ke beta baap baap hota hai." In that tournament, who the baap was, Fakhar Zaman and Mohammad Amir reminded India that in that tournament, who the baap actually was. So it's the case, with these big match players. It's not so much about their poor form. You just expect them to come good. So that was a surprising one. Look, now you have suddenly this Pakistan team, like you mentioned, this settled team is now very, very disjointed. I'm not taking anything away from what these players who are stepping in have achieved. But it's players who've not played. I can't remember the last time Mohammad Wasim played a match. Zaman Khan is playing. He's not played a one-day match yet. So the balance is now totally thrown out of whack. So like I said earlier, in a must-win match, to my mind, Sri Lanka are the overwhelming favorites to join India in the final.
Oh, okay. Jamie taking early punts over here in this discussion. We'll come back to you on that, Jamie. But Vedam, quickly, your thoughts on the changes that Pakistan is making for this particular match. The inclusion of a spinner, to me, being one of the most important strategic differences.
Yeah, like I said, I think they must have watched a little bit of the India-Sri Lanka match and seen how the pitch behaved. There's no point in going out with all sorts of pace or an all-out pace attack. And I think that's what Pakistan would have learned actually. Sri Lankan pitches are a little different. And I think Sri Lanka is perfectly capable of throwing in that pitch where the ball doesn't come onto the bat. So I think an additional spinner is definitely good. I'm not so sure about the changes because let's look at it this way. Even Sri Lanka doesn't have a full-fledged 11. They've also got a lot of people injured, and they're making do with what they have best. But what Sri Lanka have going for them is that they're used to playing in such conditions, whereas Pakistan is not used to playing in such conditions. And Pakistan, the way they have an all-out attack team, whether it's fast bowlers or whether it was batsmen, is that they are expecting flat pitches where they can come at the bowler or at the batsman with everything that they have. And like we saw in the match against India, it just doesn't work. If the ball darts a bit, their batsmen are in trouble. And if the ball doesn't do as much as their bowlers want, then again their bowlers are in trouble. So I think Pakistan needs to adapt. But I think, like Jamie said, Sri Lanka would be the team which will adapt much quicker and much faster. And I think they are more on the ball than these Pakistanis.
Literally more on the ball as far as Sri Lanka is concerned. Stay with us on that note. It's a good time to check in on what Shoaib Akhtar had to say about both Pakistan team and Sri Lanka team. Clearly, him talking about the spinner in this case, Dunith Wellalage is the man we're talking about. The man of the match, incidentally, in the match between India and Sri Lanka, despite in a losing cause, 20-year-old kid is bowling and batting as well. There's a fight there. I didn't see this fight in our players. See, you can't blame our fast bowlers. They don't play regular one-day internationals, and then you expect Haris, Naseem, Shaheen to bowl 10 overs and not get injured. All I want is a fight from Asia Cup. At least chase 300 runs. Reach at least 275. You gave up too soon. That was humiliating. Unquote. Shoaib Akhtar saying a lot of things in that, starting out by praising Dunith Wellalage. Jamie, it wasn't just Wellalage, there was Dunith Wellalage, there's Asalanka as well. But the thing is that Dunith Wellalage's batting is what caught everybody by surprise. And that's a tour de force that Pakistan will have to deal with in this match.
Oh, absolutely. And like Vedam just mentioned, if you look at it, Sri Lanka's top 4 bowling picks were not even in this tournament, So coming off winning the World Cup qualifiers, they were a very depleted bowling side. Perhaps it can be argued Wellalage would not have played had Wanindu Hasaranga even been around. But this is what consistently Sri Lankan teams managed to do. they have this, I don't know where it is, there must be some factory up in the hills or somewhere. They pick these mercurial spinners who often know how to bat, and Wellalage is just the latest addition. And it's amazing that the kid is 20, So Sri Lanka have a player, and now he's an all-rounder. I didn't know he could bat. I also didn't know that Teret Asalanka could bowl so well because he hadn't bowled for almost a year. But but lo and behold, on a slightly tacky surface or an unprepared surface, as some are calling it, he's called up to do a job. And how well did he do it? But it's just remarkable the consistency with which Sri Lanka find. They had two players in their early 20s, Wellalage and Matisha Patirana, who's I think 2021, and he's a fast bowler if he stays fit and injury prone. He also could do well for Sri Lanka. So again, I know there's rain on the cards, but I'm very, very keen to see what kind of track we have. If the track, as I said, is anywhere remotely near what we saw a couple days ago, wouldn't be surprised if Sri Lanka even drop a pacer and say, hey, can anyone bowl decent spin in this team? Because it is spin to which I see the biggest challenge to Pakistan looms.
Oh, the biggest challenge to Pakistan looms from spin. Vedam, Dunith, Wellalage, the other names we're not even talking about, Matisha Patirana, all these 20-somethings. It's as if Sri Lanka went for, untested batsman and untested bowler, and they ended up with two all-rounders.
Yeah, I think when you look at a guy like Wellalage, what really strikes you is the incredible talent and temperament that he has. You look at his temperament. He's coming into a big match. He's playing maybe some of the biggest superstars of international cricket, and he was not at all found wanting, whether batting or bowling. He was as good as any of them. And that is the way he carried himself. He was not overawed with the situation. You saw him every now and then stepping out to the spinners or the fast bowlers and hitting them offline. Now that calls for special temperament, special attitude, special temperament. And I think this guy has got all the makings of a world beater. The next 2 years will be very interesting to see how he goes. And if he progresses along the right lines, I think Sri Lanka really have somebody of the maybe Sangakkara class who is coming up. And that's saying quite a lot, because I think this chap, what we have seen him in that particular match was absolutely outstanding. And if Sri Lanka can throw up such players, and I think it can come back to those days when they had the Aravinda De Silvas, the Ranatungas, the Jaisuryas, and a whole lot of others.
Yeah.
And I think they have it. Some of these 20-year-olds, like you mentioned, they are really impressive.
Yeah. And I was about to say, once upon a time there was this bowler / batsman, half of both called Sanath Jayasuriya. Look what happened with that career eventually, Jamie. And you never know who's going to be. Sanath Jayasuriya was not an opening batsman, a middle order batsman, and a part-time spinner. He went on to be one of the greatest openers and picked up enough wickets with his bowling and was the chief restrictor of runs in limited overs cricket. But Jamie, I'll tell you this, Dunith Wellalage gives me the Rashid Khan vibes in terms of how incisive his contribution is to the team. Look at the wickets he took. That's the entire Indian batting lineup for the World Cup.
Absolutely. And look at the situation his team was facing when his captain gave him the ball. Another dominant opening stand led by Rohit Sharma. Rohit was looking like $1 million. I had him out for 100 that day. But to get Rohit Sharma to start the ball rolling, I think his best dismissal technically was the one he got to bowl Shubman Gill, because until then Shubman Gill was looking good. Rohit, it can be argued perhaps he should have gone forward, but Virat Kohli being duped by the pitch and the change of pace. KL Rahul, how good, he got 39, but that 39 would have been worth a lot more on any other day, given how tough Wellalage and the pitch were making India's batting seem. To get those big wickets, and also let's not forget Ishan Kishan, a very bogged down Ishan Kishan, just when he was looking to go after the part-timer, he drove the ball in the air, and who was standing there at catching cover? Wellalage. So he takes catches, he takes 5, I think he got the 5th wicket off the last ball of his quota, and then the batting, like we're discussing, like Shoaib Akhtar is discussing, to take the match that deep from 99 for 6, the team, the scouts, the management, they obviously knew what this guy can do with the bat. We didn't know it sitting on the outside. And, you mentioned Sanath Jayasuriya, perhaps not in that level, but the likes of a Kumar Dharmasena, there was Ruwan Kalpage, they had these spinners who on their day could, score 30, 40. I remember there was a test match at Mohali. I watched days 4 and 5. the way that Kumar Dharmasena scored 50-52, batting with Arvinder De Silva, he helped Sri Lanka escape with a draw. So they have this knack of getting these all sorts or mystery spinners, as we can say, who on any
Right.
given day can rise to the occasion with 35-40. So a
Right.
very, very dangerous side, which is why I have them as favorites to join India in the final.
Kumar Dharmasena incidentally scored a very crucial 50, I think, in that semi-finals against India in the 1996 World Cup, which Sri Lanka went on to win, if I remember correctly. And Kumar Dharmasena's contribution in that World Cup was absolutely crucial. Vedam, I want to just ask you, as far as Dunith Wellalage is concerned, how do you think the Pakistanis will be approaching him? Yes, they have a counter spinner in their team, to counter to Wellalage. But at the end of the day, you have to counter Wellalage both as a batsman and as a bowler.
Yeah, that's true. But see, what happens when you bowl like Wellalage does is you need the pitch to come into play very quickly. And I'm sure he would depend on the pitch also to come. It's how well he bowls on flat pitches or pitches which don't really help his kind of bowling. We'll really see how good a bowler he really is. But that's why I said what really impressed me most was his batting attitude, the way he batted, the temperament he showed. And I think that's got all the makings of a world beater. Bowling, yes, for the next 2, 3 years, he'll pick up a lot of nuances, a lot of tricks. There'll be somebody like Muralidhar over there, Muralidharan, who will be helping him out, I'm sure. And he'll be picking up a lot of those tips from those kind of maestros. But I think it's his batting really that I'd like to watch because I think he's got all the makings of a world-class batsman. It's just a question of the next 2 years how it develops.
Okay. So Pakistan are going to have their hands full with Wellalage. Jamie, a quick check. What do you think the pitch is going to be like? So much now is going to depend upon the pitch. The way the pitch is played so far, what kind of a pitch can we expect for this Pakistan versus Sri Lanka Super 4 match?
Really anyone's guess because on the same ground we saw two different pitches. Of course, each ground has 3, 4, 5 multiple pitches. Look, I think Sri Lanka were equally surprised by the amount of turn and uneven bounce that track had. India knew it was going to turn, which is why they brought in Akshay Patel. It was a preemptive move, keeping in mind at least 2-3 instances which could present themselves during the World Cup where they'll have to drop Shardul and play Akshay. But even Sri Lanka were surprised by the amount of turn there. Like I said, would they want another pitch? I would wager yes. It's full of risk because their batting didn't stand up. The batting was nowhere as good as India's collectively, only because India got across 200. But, Wellalage is scoring runs. And look at the shots he played. Like Vedam was talking about. These are proper shots, Yes, his bowling was aided by the kind of wicket they got. But between a track on which you can maybe lose the toss and see Pakistan get to 300, I think Sri Lanka would probably want a somewhat turning track. Not a bad wicket, not an underprepared wicket, but one which aids their kind of play. And frankly, after the last match, yes, they lost by 41 runs. It is that kind of pitch as opposed to the other ones we've seen at the Premadasa, which will actually suit their style. Because in Pakistan, like you said, they made 5 changes. They've had to drop a very senior batsman. They've got some new players. And the biggest thing for me is Shadab Khan is not bowling anywhere near the skill that which he has and the skill with which the Pakistan team keep playing him. So on that kind of conditions, I still think Sri Lanka would back themselves with the better bowlers, with the informed bowlers, or a slightly slow and low wicket.
All right. Vedam, I want to ask you, talking about the Pakistan team, talking about so many players over there, Shoaib Akhtar also talking about the fact that, they are the number 1 ODI team, but they don't play enough one-day internationals, and hence their bowlers can't bowl 10 overs, in a one-day international. It's an oxymoron. You're the number 1 one-day international team. You don't play enough, so you can't play fully. Explain this conundrum to us.
Well, I think they have to break it up then into 3 T20
Who is
matches
number 1?
so they can bowl 4 and 4 and another 2. I can't understand this argument at all because, Shoaib Akhtar's argument doesn't make sense because these guys are professional cricketers. They play a lot of cricket, not just in Pakistan. They also play in England. They play a lot of league cricket in England. They're used to these kind of conditions. And, if you're turning up as a professional in England, nobody's going to give you just 4 overs. They'll try to get maximum for the buck, so they'll make you bowl 20, 30 overs a day. No professional can get away bowling less than 20 or 30 overs a day. And that's what they'll be bowling over there. So for him to say that they're used to bowling only 4 overs, is, I mean, just doesn't cut ice. And what is it? They're not bowling 10 overs at a stretch. They're coming at it in maybe 2 or even 3 or even 4 spells. So I think Shoaib Akhtar has got it all wrong. And bowling 10 overs, come on. If you're bowling 25 overs, I can understand that there's a lot of wear and tear on your body. But 10 overs, these professional cricketers, this should be able to bowl day in and day out 10 overs. Not an issue at all.
Look at what T20's cricket has done, Jamie.
If I can just add here,
Please.
just to add on what Shoaib Akhtar said, right? I was being fed this narrative that the Pakistan team is undercooked, they're not playing. Heading into the Asia Cup, Pakistan had played 12 one-days this year, and India had played 12 one-days. They had the identical record. So where is this narrative of Pakistan not playing enough one-days, right? Had they been stacked up against India's 12 with 4 matches, but you've played 12, and of those 12, you won 9. So where does Shoaib Akhtar come off this argument that Pakistan is not playing enough one-day cricket? I just don't get where this comes from.
Pakistan does not play enough one cricket. I have a feeling that he's talking about the fact that performance against India felt like they didn't want to fight. But then that's how Pakistan is, that the day they win, they look invincible. And the day they lose, Vedam, they look like they haven't even tried for the day.
Yes, when they are bad, they are very bad. And when they are good, they are very good. Like somebody said. And we've seen this time and again. But having said that, I think India just overwhelmed them, the way the Big Four batted. And they batted brilliantly. Really, scoring 300 odd runs against this Pakistan attack on such a track, absolutely brilliantly. And look at Hardik Pandya, the way he bowled. You could expect the others to bowl. Hardik Pandya is actually, if Shoaib Akhtar's argument has to stand good for Hardik Pandya, he's not used to bowling so much. He's coming out of an injury, but he bowled so brilliantly on the wicket. He got Babar Azam, where the ball came back off the seam. Absolutely fantastic. Even against Sri Lanka, we saw Hardik Pandya. I mean, he bowled out of his skin. And that's exactly the kind of bowling that you need. So for Shoaib Akhtar to crib, I don't understand it at all. On the other hand, I think India did very well. And Pakistan needs to up their game. They can't come with this kind of a game and expect to do well against either India or against Sri Lanka. Then it's okay. They might play maybe Ireland or somebody else. They might do well against West Indies, perhaps. But if you're going to play India, if you're going to play Sri Lanka, then you better come up with a better game than what we have seen so far.
Right. Now that we're discussing Pakistan, and just before that crucial Asia Cup match against Sri Lanka, former Pakistan skipper Ramiz Raja has made a statement which hints at some kind of a rift in that Pakistani dressing room. The Pakistan Cricket Board president had advised the team to stay united, and Ramiz Raja had this piece of advice for the Pakistani cricket team, and it goes, if anyone needs special practice, they can take it. Go to the pool, relax. Don't touch social media. Don't watch television channels. There won't be anything good there because Pakistan is disappointed. Get united. You point fingers at each other after such defeats, that too against India. Jamie, this is literally like a school principal, telling people that like, hey, this is what's going to happen now. You're grounded because of the way you lost and who you lost to. Just focus on playing the next game. But why the reason why we're not talking about the possibility of a rift is that why would Ramiz Raja go out and say something like Saath Raho, stay united? Because there is a problem in that unity.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, most World Cup teams, Vedam mentioned 19-2. I mean, that's a very well documented phase where the team was disjointed, and you read Wasim Akram's memoir, Sultan, which I finished a few weeks ago. And it just speaks of every high phase, every low phase, every decent phase was just, it was dogged by this kind of infighting. And the way that Wasim Akram paints a picture of the man on the screen here, Ramiz Raja, it's not someone who perhaps every word we should hang on. And even more recently, when he was PCB chairman, the kind of statements he made, I understand where a lot of them came from. You're in a very high position. The way that the PCB runs is very, very different to other boards. But the kind of comments he made, कि हम ये करेंगे, वो करेंगे, not one thing happened, right? Is there a rift? Absolutely, there'll be a rift. I mean, Fakhar Zaman was dropped. Bad form, yes. I'm also hearing that he's one of the people who he feels that he's been made a scapegoat. There's some murmurs of him being one of the instigators. Who knows where it came from? But a rift in a team which has rifts on a good day. Imagine this team, being jolted out of whatever world they were living in before the India match to now losing two of their best three bowlers. Questions will be asked now, and it doesn't help. Ramiz Raja says, "Okay, don't go on social media." He has a YouTube channel where he flip flops every second day. Shoaib Akhtar will flip flop every 10 overs. Shoaib Akhtar, on the very few times, honestly, that I've gone to his YouTube channel, in the same 48 hours, I've seen him say that Babar is the best captain, and the next day, "Ke Babar ko hatao yahan se." So I don't take these guys very seriously. We understand they have a market to appeal to drive numbers. So frankly, I don't give too much importance to what Pakistanis say on YouTube.
Let's then talk about the more important matters about the match in question. And the latest updates, gentlemen, is that the entire stadium has been covered because it's raining. And it looks like Pakistan could be out of luck today, because let's bear in mind, if the match is rained out and points are split between Pakistan and Sri Lanka, Sri Lanka will go through to the finals on account of better run rate. So as things stand, Jamie, Vedam, with all that rain coming down, with the entire stadium covered, Pakistan would be praying for rain gods to go away, but we are in the situation where there's so much of rains going on that gods might not listen eventually.
See, if it rains, fair enough. It rains and you can't do anything about it. But when rains stop, you should be able to get play going immediately. And that's the tragedy with most of these grounds. They just put these, primitive covers, and then you have an even more primitive way to get rid of it. It's not that there is no other technology. We have seen KSC has done a fantastic thing with their sub-air system. And I think now Himachal Pradesh also has followed suit. I mean, all these major grounds have to do that, because there is so much of money riding, and there's so much of interest riding. There's so much of television, so much of jobs, so many things riding. And you can't have these primitive conditions, where you put some of these tarpaulin and these old plastic sheets and you take 1 hour after the rain stops, 1.5 hours to clear it, and then the ground is still soggy. I mean, it's time that the ICC, the ACC, and every other board had at least 2 or 3 grounds where they could have the sub-air system. Yes, it's a little expensive. It runs to about 4 to 5 crores, but it's an American system, and we've seen how they handle their golf courses brilliantly with that. And now we've moved it on to cricket. And, it's been working now in KSA for the last 4 or 5 years, and it's time others took a leap out of it and did it. Otherwise, we'll come back to the same thing. You can't control rain, but what you can control is, as soon as the rain stops, within the next 5-10 minutes, you should get play on route. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time. You're trying to work out with your amateur's ability in a professional setup. It doesn't cut ice at all.
Right, but 30 to 54% showers were precipitation was predicted. Intermittent showers, full 100 overs unlikely. Jamie, in a shortened match, we're looking at the highest probability is that even if we have a match, it won't be a full 50-over match. It will be a rain-affected shortened game. When the game is shortened, does the state of play change, as it were? Does it make it easier for Pakistan than to beat Sri Lanka if we're looking at a shortened game?
I think and this is not something that I'm just saying for the first time. I believe that in a shortened, condensed match, Pakistan, let's say this, Pakistan to me are a more dangerous T20 team than they are a one-day team. And I've been saying this throughout the year, even as they made their way to the #1 ranking, because we understand the rankings are nowhere near fully indicative of what a team's success or failures are actually based upon. It's why I go back to that match against India, right? People are still assuming the target was 267. It was not. It was going to be 155 from 20 overs. given the wet nature of the pitch, given the fact that the ball that evening would have been very, very damp, given the fact that majority of captains in such situations choose to chase. In that match, Pakistan were the favorites to me. We'll never know because the match never happened. In the same situation, this disheveled, disjointed, injury hit Pakistan team, I believe, would actually fancy. I don't think that said it's going to come down to 20 overs. It could be 30, 32. But the more the rain goes on, the lower the number of overs. I think it'll be Pakistan which will back themselves. History shows when Pakistan teams are pushed against, the backs against a corner, they find something. And given the problems, like the longer the format goes, they're going to struggle to beat Sri Lanka. But that said, Sri Lanka are the favorites. They have enough players.
Okay.
They're also, let's not forget, they're defending Asia Cup champions, and they beat Pakistan in a T20 final last year. So in a shortened game, I'd put it, instead of 80-20, I'd probably put it 60-40 to Sri Lanka.
Yeah, an important point. Even in a T20 format, you had Sri Lanka beat Pakistan. So it's not like if it's a shortened game, it's a giveaway to Pakistan straight away. It becomes easier for Pakistan to beat Sri Lanka. Vedam, the question I want to ask you is that ever since Asia Cup began, or even before it began, when the talk began, when it comes to Asia Cup, every single time, the hope is that we get an India-Pakistan final. I mean, everybody starts those, not just Indians and Pakistanis. Cricket fans across the world want as many India-Pakistan face-offs. 3, ideally 2, supposed to take place. 1 got washed out. The 3rd obviously depends upon whether both these teams come to the finals. Now, the question now is, will there be an India-Pakistan final?
Well, we should ask Shoaib Akhtar that, because he said 10 overs was too much for them to bowl. Maybe if it's truncated, he'll get enough number of overs for his bowlers to bowl. Look, it doesn't matter for India who comes to the final. But if it's Pakistan, we have shown that we are more than ready. And I think what has happened really, if you look at this Asia Cup, is there's been so much of focus on India and Pakistan, but Sri Lanka has sneaked in very well, and they did it last time too. So I think we need to keep an eye on them, and not just they're also there to try and win a championship. They're not there to make up the numbers. And they've shown already that, they can ambush these teams. So I think we need to just focus on whoever comes in. If it is Pakistan, so be it. If it is Sri Lanka, be prepared for them. And, waiting for India, Pakistan all the time, it's not a good sign at all. We just need to play whichever team is there on the ground and go accordingly. Don't build up a hype, and then when they don't come, and then you just relax. That's not the way you need to be. Whoever it is, you need to bring your top game and stay right there and be competitive.
Well, absolutely. And the latest we understand now, Jamie and Vedam, is that the toss has been delayed for the Pakistan versus Sri Lanka Super 4 match. So not even the toss as we speak. So we are definitely looking at a rain-reduced game, Jamie. And I want to understand here, Pakistan, does that then all this time waiting for rains waiting for rains to go away inside dressing room, does that bind the team together? Does that give a chance for a team to put aside everything that's happened so far up until the day of the match and gives them some game time to actually get together?
I'm not sure, because I think Pakistan, you are different from every other team. This might bind other teams together, but a Pakistan team which apparently is dealing with infighting once again, who knows, right? I just think that the amount of rain delays we've seen down the years, especially ones which it's not just a passing shower. The play could be interrupted multiple times. No point talking about reserve day because this match doesn't have one. But these long delays in a situation where both teams have to win, it's the team which is disjointed, the team which is depleted, and in this case, it's Pakistan. I think these breaks, I just don't do anyone any good. You might read up a few things from from the visuals you're saying, and put 2 and 2 together. Oh, so and so's back slapping, so and so's having a cup of tea, so and so's having a sandwich. But beyond that, just the insecurities that build up. And I'm saying insecurities because this is a must-win situation, right? I think Pakistan have gone to, maybe they won't publicly acknowledge it, but going from the tournament favorites to now a distinct number 3 in the stakes to reach the final. What these rain breaks do, I don't know. Definitely Sri Lanka will be the happier camp, the happier dressing room, and whatever visuals do come our way, and all the viewers watching this show, I think it's very, very important to lean forward, squint your eyes, and try to pick up the body language of both the camps, because I'm going to wager it's going to be very, very different between Sri Lanka and Pakistan.
Very different body language between Sri Lanka and Pakistan. And the latest we know also is that Vedam, the covers are on, but the rain has stopped. So that's one piece of good news amidst the dark clouds, literally. We don't have rain now, but the covers are still on. And all that you spoke about after the rain, how quickly can we recover and start the match, is what it's going to be all about. On that note, Vedam, before I come to you, we'll just quickly also run through the weather forecast for the day, just so that, people can, temper their expectations of what to expect from the rains for the day. Rain interruption not ruled out before the match began. Completely, that's exactly what the match is begun on. We're talking about 30 to 54% precipitation possibilities as far as the day is concerned. That's what the weather gurus have predicted for the 30 to 54% precipitation forecast. This is for Colombo, the capital of Sri Lanka, where the match is taking place. On that note, quickly, if we can also talk about the Sri Lankan team, Vedam, because so much of focus is on Pakistan and the problems within Pakistan. We haven't spoken about Sri Lanka enough. Yes, they have found some great youngsters in the form of Wellalage. You got Matisha Patidana in the team. But talk to us about the team composition per se going into this match against Pakistan for Sri Lanka.
See, first and foremost, if it's going to be a truncated match, obviously the team batting second will be in a better position. They'll have a better advantage, especially when right from first ball that this match is going to be truncated. So I think the toss will really play a major part in it, and Sri Lanka will also need to get in a few batters on their side, batters who can hit the ball. And we need to find out whether they have a few more aces up their sleeve where they can get batsmen who can really whack the ball. And that would be really interesting, because if it is going to be a truncated match, then I don't know how much of the spinners will come in for use. Maybe you'll have more fast bowlers rather than spinners coming in. So I think Sri Lanka has its challenges really if it is a truncated game. And yes, Pakistan has got the pacers. They've got those big hitters. But whether Sri Lanka also has got those big hitters, what sort of pitch, I think we need to wait and watch that. But having said that, when we were talking about the disjointed Pakistani team, I mean, it starts with their administration. If Imran Khan is the prime minister, then straight away they have somebody like Ramiz Raja as the PCB chief. And once the prime minister is removed and you have the sheriffs coming in, then they have Sethi coming in. And now Sethi is also removed. There's a new prime minister. There's somebody else. So I think their rot actually starts with their administration itself and goes all the way. Luckily, they have not changed their captain. They kept their captain right through. But anything is possible in Pakistan cricket. And Sri Lanka also realizes that Sri Lanka is a seasoned side. And let's not forget that there are many maestros sitting there in the Sri Lankan dugout, and Arjuna Ranatunga, Aravinda Dissalva, they're all out there giving them the right advice. And they would know what it is to play in a truncated match. But like I said, Sri Lanka knows the weather inside out at this time of the year. And they would need a couple of big hitters, but they would also know how to go about this.
All right. We're talking about team compositions. One last thing I want to ask you, Jamie, is that as the covers wait to be lifted off the grounds, do you expect changes from the 11 that Pakistan announced yesterday? Because Pakistan already announced they're playing 11, and now looking at the conditions, do you expect Pakistan to make more changes, knowing the uncertainty and the mercurialness of the team, and what how things can change in Pakistan very quickly?
I don't think they have the players to even draft in now. I mean, unless you're going back to a Fakhar Zaman, but what message does that send? You've already shot his confidence. Beyond that, they don't have any other bowlers or batsmen to pick. So I would not see any changes. Once you announce it, also no team. I mean, very very rarely is a day when someone changes the 11 after naming it. So I don't see any changes.
What about Sri Lanka then? They can they are yet to announce an official 11 for this particular match. They can make changes because they can reduce the number of spinners if this is going to be a 20 or 30 over match.
Yeah, I mean, Sri Lanka at least have the option, But again, look at the way that Wellalage bowled and Charit Asalanka. They have a couple players like Dimut Karunaratne is not scoring runs. Patum Nisanka is struggling. But when you won 13 matches in a row without making too many changes, I think they'll just play the same 11. Unless it comes down to a 20 over match, then you might see one change. then you perhaps wouldn't need a second spinning option. You probably won't want a pace bowler. But again, I think Sri Lanka would be very, very happy with the 11 they had in the last match.
All right, so that's the situation. And before we wrap things up, Vedam, your last thoughts on this encounter. The way I'm looking at it, there are two things that can happen from here on. One is that we get a match that gets washed out eventually without being able to have a full match, full legal match. And then you have the chance that the match happens. And then you have Pakistan and Sri Lanka sort of evening out their issues because it's a truncated match. So at this stage, the way it's beginning, if I were to ask where your money is on, where would your money be on?
I think Pakistan has to do all the running. Right now it is Sri Lanka which is sitting pretty. So Pakistan has to do all the running. So the onus is on them, the pressure is on them. How well they react to it, that's the big thing. And of course the toss. We're in a truncated match. Like I said earlier, batting second is always an advantage. So let's have a look at the toss first and then decide really who's got the advantage. But as of now, I would think it's advantage Sri Lanka.
Right, and as we speak, gentlemen, we have some quotes coming in. Imam ul Haq, in a chat with the official broadcaster, has said this, and I quote what Imam ul Haq has said: "We haven't lost any match since 3 months. Unfortunately, that was the game versus India. We need to get rid of that from our blood. That's part of the game. We have some quality players and we talked about it. You have to step in, and this is the day we are looking forward to. We played LPL here, test matches as well. We knew that the conditions will be like this. It's not a batting paradise. It's a tough challenge. As a batsman, you have to adapt. You have to craft your innings and look for the bad balls. Running between the wickets is the key as well. And today's game, we are looking forward to this game only. We know we are a good team. We have to execute and we have to work hard," is the word coming in from Imam ul Haq. Last thoughts here, Jamie, going into this game, going forward for Pakistan. We are looking at a World Cup awaiting us as well. You can change half your team within an Asia Cup, but you will need a solid 11 when you go into the World Cup.
Oh, absolutely, and this is why these injuries to Naseem Shah and Haris Rauf and the lack of confidence they've now shown in a struggling Fakhar Zaman, it might offset their World Cup plans. That said, we all know that due to very obvious reasons, they're not traveling as much as other teams. They have nine league matches, and you expect teams to make changes because, especially when you're dependent on fast bowlers, India will face the same problem with Jasprit Bumrah. I don't see Jasprit Bumrah playing 9 league matches. He's going to have to be rotated. So I'm sure they're planning for the World Cup in a sense that we know who's going to be rested here and there. Right. But when those players are suddenly not fit, it can throw the best of teams, totally out of whack. So very, very tough spot that Pakistan find themselves in right now.
Pakistan finding themselves in an extremely tough spot is the word coming in from Jamie Alter. Jamie, as always, pleasure talking to you. And of course, Mr. Vedam Jaishankar, both of you gentlemen, thank you so much for taking time out to be with us here on this special edition of Game On. We will have to wrap things up. We've completely run out of time. Thank you all of you so much for watching. This is Krishna Kumar signing off.
मैं इमरान अहमद खान नियाजी सबके दिल से हल्फ उठाता हूँ.
When Imran Khan came initially into politics, he thought his personal popularity would be sufficient for him. It didn't happen.
The retired military generals are openly saying that Imran Khan is a better choice.
Imran Khan may have bitten a bit too much, more than what he can chew.
Implosion. This and more. Streaming on world's first news OTT. News 9 Plus. Download now.
With all this gear, you must be wondering if I'm climbing a mountain. Well, let me give you a wider look of this place. This is Asia's largest mountain of shame.
A mountain of waste, almost the height of the Qutub Minar.
When you enter capital cities of some of the biggest countries in the world, you don't have 3 garbage mountains waiting to welcome you, depending on whichever side of the city you enter from.
The thing is that a lot of times we talk about landfills only when there's a fire at the landfill.
You need to understand that a landfill is at fire almost throughout the year. It's only when the firefighters are not able to douse the fire is when it actually catches the nation's attention, the city's attention, or media attention.
The towering landfills worsen one of Delhi's biggest problems: pollution.
यहाँ पर आप रात को आओ, दिन में आओ, आप 1 घंटे बैठ नहीं सकते बाहर। इतनी धूल, प्रदूषण, महक, आप खाना भी नहीं खा सकते बाहर बैठ के।
Life around the landfill is a curse.
हमारे घर में जो बड़े हैं उन्हें अस्थमा के वो पेशेंट है, आए दिन उनको नेबुलाइजर लगाना पड़ता है।
डॉक्टर ने भी मुझे ये चीज बोला कि यहाँ का एरिया छोड़ के कहीं और चाहिए।
Delhi's garbage mountains are now a fetid symbol of the national capital's trash problem. The question is, who is to be blamed? Watch Delhi's Garbage Mountains. Streaming on News 9 Plus for the Genflix.
इंजीनियरिंग कर रहे हैं क्योंकि सभी लोग कर रहे हैं।
कोचिंग इज नाउ स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम ग्रेड 3, 4, 5, 6।
कोटा जाने वाली बीच राह में आधे टेस्ट देके हैं सिलेक्शन की चाह में।
ऑल इंडिया का बच्चा कोटा जाता है।
This rat race is for rats, not for humans. So why should we even be a part of it?
The Rat Race. This and more streaming on world's first news OTT, News 9 Plus. Download now.
Akshay Kumar makes his Marathi film debut in Mahesh Manjrekar's Vedat Marathi Veer Daudale Sa.